Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, talk that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized. And when you get on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything that we deem is not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your points. Thank you all again for joining us, your voice in the community. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our YouTube channel in Vaughan Radio and our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again. Tonight, Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Of course, a special good evening to those viewing and listening. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation. I'm sure that tonight's program is going to be just as fruitful as all the other programs. And I would like to encourage, the listeners to call in, be part of this interactive and, educational program. We learn from you, you learn from us, and that's the way it ought to go. Weber, once again, thanks for the invitation, and I'm looking forward for a really good and fruitful discussion tonight.
Conrad Nair-Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a pleasant good evening to your staff here at Vaughan Radio and to my colleagues. Good evening. And to my friends in the international circle in Toronto and Connecticut, I say good night to you guys. And thanks for tuning in once again. Webbo, of course, it's the Culturama time. But before I say that, I must say what a beautiful day it was today. And we are at the consummation of a beautiful day, nothing extraordinary, but we're living in this beautiful island, beautiful climate, beautiful people, and we are coming up to a beautiful event called Culturama, and so we're all excited and geared up for that, and there's quite a lot happening in terms of preparation for that festival, and so we look forward to that wholeheartedly. I at this point using this opportunity to invite everyone who have some links with Nevis, or those who have some links with Nevisians in the diaspora, to come along to the little island. And it is, of course, the Caribbean greatest summer festival. It is very special because it's a reflection of our culture, it's of a way of life. It's the only festival, I think, of that sort in the region, and so we expect and we are hoping that Nevis will be covered with not just Nevisians, but everyone who wants to have this very special experience. Webo, apart from that, of course, there are issues affecting the people, which we discuss here every Tuesday night, and we have conversations. And I always say at the end of these conversations, I hope we can come up with some solutions to the various problems and circumstances we are facing here in Nevis. But thank you for having me once again, and I look forward to a healthy discussion this evening.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts, and more particularly the gracious people of Nevis, those who listen to us on the World Wide Web and Facebook, YouTube, as the case might be. Those of the Caribbean Basin, of course. Webber, this evening, of course, is an important evening regarding the issues based on how things are understood that Skelec had a legal battle with a fuel contract, and based on the experience of the Attorney General, they sought a resolution of the contractual arrangement in the area of commerce. But this company from Canada, represented by supposedly a competent lawyer, but the Attorney General, of course, knows contracts, and every lawyer should know how contracts are predicated, and as a result, they were able to be successful to get a settlement, an adjudication, a legal arrangement from I would imagine, the ICC. Anyhow, based on the competence of the Attorney General, coming from this little spot known as Nevis, St. Kitts, a nation of St. Kitts Nevis, to do battle with Canadian lawyers, they should have known that a contract is a contract, and they should have known that they cannot win something when it is not properly predicated legally, properly designed legally. As a result, they lost the battle. And I have to give kudos to the Attorney General of St. Kitts Nevis for having advised Skelec not to go forward and to challenge the basis of the contract in court, again with a Canadian firm supposedly represented by a good lawyer. Canada has plenty money. Canadians have plenty money, and as a result, they should have been able to employ a lawyer who could see that he couldn't win this battle against Skelec. But maybe they just decide to underrate us as small island people, and maybe they don't understand that we were educated in the major universities in whether the United States, Canada, Britain, as the case might be, and therefore we have read the same law books. We would have been able to put together a contract and make a determination when the contract is broken, or fortunately we were able to be successful in court. Webo, Roger, Naya.
Well, I don't know the issue, but
it's a breach of contract.
Yes, it's a breach of contract, a frustrated contract, a breach of contract, a contract that has no basis. Canadian law is common law. It's British law. It's the same law we read, and so I could imagine that it was nothing too foreign for the Attorney General to deal with. And in terms of competence, globally, I mean, we have competent lawyer here, as competent as any lawyer in the world. And of course, a lot of people will think money can bring out, but money can't change the facts. You can bring out the best lawyers in the world, but I mean, the facts cannot change with money. And so sometimes it's almost a waste of time and a waste of money to think that because there's money you can shop around and get the best lawyers. I mean, and so it's no surprise that we can be successful. A lawyer here for a firm from the Federation of States can be successful against any firm in the world, you know, especially, you know, within the Commonwealth, where the common law is being practiced. So.
Well, the thing is that based on what occurred, the contract has certain elements in it, and based on what was learned by the Attorney General while he was in law school, and based on the experience he has gained over a certain period of time practicing law, he knew that the fuel contract for Skellek was breached, and consequently the Canadian firm who represented that the opposite end of the bargain had to capitulate, and as a result they lost the case. They had to pay legal fees to us. So that of course was a good thing in terms of competence on the part of the Attorney General to have seen the loopholes and to understand the basis on which the contract was breached, and decided to take the matter to court, and Skellek became successful in court.
Stanley, I want to say kudos based on what you say. I'm not privy to what you are saying prior, but having said what you said, I want to say kudos to the Attorney General, and of course here in St. Kitts Nevis we sought to get the best legal mind, if possible, to be our our Attorney General, and no doubt he's there to do a job, one that he went to school for, and we are really indeed happy, because this could have been a heavy loss based on what you are saying to us, and monies could have been leaked heavily.
But we have seen, apart from that, that Culturama was taken over by the island administration in 1990, and obviously there is a debate about the reason why it was taken over by the government in 1990. I think that can occupy our minds for a little bit, because it's interesting. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that, because I didn't know that, and so my colleague have looked it up on the internet and was able to and we should have known. And of course, one would have asked, and I guess we are asking at this point, the reason why, because sometimes when things are left in the private hands, it works better. Sometimes when it becomes that important to a country, to a nation, to an island, it becomes the duty and responsibility of the government to keep things going. So, what do you think, Mr. Fife?
Well, I believe that there are a number of persons, older persons, you know, and persons who would have been part of the first Culturama committee back in, when I say first, I mean first Culturama committee from since the island government would have taken it over in 1990. And of course, you know, we have persons like Irma Johnson. Good evening, Miss Johnson, and you know, such like. I think I read somewhere near that, you know, that in Lemon's term, the festival was going down the drain, and hence the reason why the government stepped in. They took it over. They created a Culturama secretariat and also staff it. And years on, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and it has since grown from strength to strength. I think that this year is no doubt would be one of the biggest, if not the biggest. There's a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement, even right in the studios where we sit here now. The powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean have put out a promo sometime last week, I believe, in terms of persons could register to be a part of the song competition. I think that is been catching on. A lot of persons have been showing interest. I think it is dubbed, you can win $100. I think, is it that?
$100.
$100.
iPhone.
Yes. well, I think the name, would go well or flow with the 50th anniversary. And I think it's unique. Just the name, it's unique. I think the name alone, is so creative, and as such, it's capturing the imagination of others, and persons want to know about it. Persons are registering. So I just want to add to that and ask persons to register, to sign up. It's a good chunk of money. If I had the ability to sing, I would have signed up. But who knows? You never know. Persons sometimes, persons singing in a particular way, persons, gravitate to them. And it's not been judged by a panel of judges. It's been judged by you, the listening audience. So who knows? I guess if I have a number of fans out there and I sign up, I may just walk away with it.
Well, it is, of course, important to understand the origin of Culturama and the journey leading up to the 50th year. I, in the past, have served as vice chair of Culturama, and Royal Isaac was the chairman, I was the vice chairman, and as a result, based on what you are saying, Culturama was losing money, but we were able to be successful with reference to making a profit, to the extent where I got a stipend for actually performed well, and Isaac got his, and a few people got a certain amount, because we did make a profit. As a result, Culturama has moved upward and onward, and as a result, it is in a better place now, with the Horsford's 100 contribution. It's a good gesture, and I would give kudos to the management and staff of Vaughan Radio to have gotten that kind of association with Horsford, for them to cough up that amount of money without even getting into the real competition on stage, because this is, of course, barring judges who sometimes are found to have cheated, and as a result, I think it is a fair game doing it the way Horsford's and Vaughan Radio have teamed up. And who knows, that might be the paradigm, a new paradigm for the future, not allowing judges to judge, but the general public, and as a result, who knows, we might get a fairer outcome. So where we are with Culturama, we must give those who started it, and ultimately the government took it over, and as a result it has been growing from strength to strength, and it is placed on a different plateau. Fortunately, where we are in the history of Culturama, we now have to make a clarion call to all those who have some affiliation with Nevis to come home and enjoy the Culturama, and not only to enjoy Culturama, but to see the advancement that Nevis has made over the past 50 years. As a result, I've seen a lot of infrastructure being put in at the bath bathing place, bath stream, and Government House is getting a new wall. This tells you that the Nevis Island administration is putting its best foot forward with reference to sprucing up the place for those who are coming, who have spent many years outside thinking that Nevis is still what it was, but when they come, they will be shocked to see the state of Nevis currently under the CCM administration. So they got to get their share of compliments.
Stanley, they're also, fixing up the cultural village. I think they would have extended it something like 20 feet going towards the E.T. Willett Park. And from what I understand, a number of other things would be added in terms of the lengthening and the widening of the stage. I think that the stage indeed was a bit small. The width, performers, couldn't perform, at optimum, in my opinion, on such a stage. And I think that, they are doing the works currently. I think I saw something where, you see as if they're getting there closely. I think the Minister of Culture, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, he keeps us updated, regularly, and they have committed that it's going to be finished in time for the first activity in the village for Culturama. Stanley, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you. I never knew that you were so intimately a part of the Culturama Festival, Stanley, as a deputy vice chair, as you coined it, and you would have indicated to us that during your tenure, the committee was successful in making a surplus, and so I want to congratulate you. You would have helped, in the laying of the path for where we are, some years on. And I also want to, since I'm congratulate the Eastern Caribbean Powers One Radio. I think over the years they would have been bringing the activities, live and lively, and Von Radio all the time have, persons in the booth at Culturama who are very creative and who are very, how to describe, the participants on stage to make you feel as if that you are right there watching it, even though you are just listening to the radio. And of course, one of the things I think it's very important, is the airplay of the various Culturama songs that they do each year. And believe me, without the hearing of these Culturama songs on the airwaves, you wouldn't feel the Culturama spirit. You wouldn't feel the Culturama vibes. So Von Radio, Mr. Herbert and your staff, I want to say kudos to you and to continue to keep up the good job that you are doing. And of course, we want listeners out there to continue to listen to the Eastern Caribbean only powerhouse, Von Radio, for anything cultural, anything Culturama. I am sure that Von Radio would be there. And they now have added, another dimension, another segment, in partnership with Hustler. That is, we spoke about it earlier. So just stay tuned to Von, and you would get all the necessary information that is required for you to be a part of having a chance of winning that $100. It just rings nice in my ears. $100 someone could walk away with. So,
gentlemen, I have some information I want to share with you and the public in relation to basically what Roger was saying, because I did promise when we reveal this initiative with Horsford's Nevis Center that there was more to come, much more to come. We have some other things that we will be rolling out at different times. Now, before I give you this bit of information though, Roger, there's a particular thing that you pointed out in reference to Edric and his participation on the Culturama Committee 1990 and maybe 1991. It was 1 or 2 years, Edric.
I don't remember.
That's okay. That happens to all of us. But I bet you remember this. You said that. Or let me ask it this way. Did I understand you to say that a part of the reason why the government took it over was because it was losing money?
I would venture to say that might be a fact.
But
might
you don't work with me, but you don't know.
No.
Okay. But you did say that when they took it over and you were the vice chairman, they made a profit.
That is correct.
Okay. Do you know whether or not they're still making a profit, or that was the only time that they made a profit?
Well, I don't know what the figures are. At the same time...
No, you don't have to give me the figures, because when you told me you made a profit, you didn't tell me what the figures were, and I was satisfied with that. You agree with that?
That is correct.
Okay. So do we know whether or not they're still making a profit?
I can't tell you.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If they are not making a profit, do you think it is fair to conclude or to suggest that some other entity should take it over? Because when the other entity was running it and it was losing money, it was necessary for somebody else to take it over.
I wouldn't recommend that, because what I would say is that the government, from a comprehensive point of view, sees the benefit of running it, because every person who steps on this island for Culturama, the dollar that they spend touches every woman and child, man, woman and child, as part of the larger economy. So when you quantify the amount that the government takes in, you have to put the expenditure of the government and match that. As a result, you can determine, based on calculation, as to whether or not the government is making money from it. Again, when you look at the comprehensive approach that the government takes with regard to inviting, advertising, urging, pleading, asking for people to come home, there is a major impact on the larger economy outside of government. So when you in fact quantify the amount with regard to what government has in fact put up, the calculation in terms of taxes paid by the entities, you must be able to come up with a determination as to whether or not government should continue. Because with government in it, it has a greater impact, in my view, than to allow it to go back to a private entity. So we have to keep that paradigm going.
So, based on your logic and your thinking, is it fair to say that, to conclude, that anything that creates that magnitude of impact on a country or an economy, government ought to run it?
Quite so. Quite so, because
The telephone system, would you say it is of mega significance to a country?
that is correct.
So based on the philosophy that you just put forth to me, based on my questioning, the government should take that over?
No, well, but you have to categorize entities according to their performance. And the private sector, of course, has its successes and its failures. Because
Are you aware that the government was operating the telephone system before the private sector?
quite so. Quite so.
Okay. I have maybe that bit of information for you at this juncture. It comes off again. We're just getting into the different stuff that we'll be doing. This, I'll let you hear it. And someone had mentioned something. I think it was Roger. Someone anyway, might have been Naya, was talking about the history being Culturama 50, and I realize that a lot of persons are talking one-on-one in groups and stuff like that, and talking about the history of Culturama, what happened, who did what and stuff, and all that, to me, to tell the truth, is exciting.
But before I go, we have to give King This and That a lot of kudos, because he has been with Culturama as a performer for 49, going into the 50th year. And as a result, he got an MBE for his participation, but somewhere along the line, he should be given, I can't tell you what he should be given, but something to recognize his continuous participation over the long haul, to the extent where he has participated in the festival for 50 years, for 49 years so far. And this year he had a song released that has been released, and it the 50th year of singing. And This and That is still a young man, so we probably can look forward to another 20 years coming from him. All right?
I mean, Stanley, I also want to concur with you. You know, I think that This and That is legendary. We have to give Jack his jacket. To be competing for 49 years, it's no easy feat. And especially for one who penned his own lyrics, it is not easy. It is so easy for one to get writer's block, you know, and I must give This and That his kudos. I can recall songs, you know, of This and That, you know, from, I think in 88 he had a song, Running Around Like a Set of Goats. I can recall songs like Hunting back in 92, you know, where the song basically said he went into a bathroom, he dressed up like a girl, like a female, went in the bathroom, and you were shocked what he saw and stuff like that. You know, I can recall songs like Come to the Altar. You know, I guess it was a kind of a controversial, you know, he thought that he won the year, and he asked the judges to come to the altar and repent. You know, I could recall songs like Caution. I can recall songs like The White Man's Wish, We're Pulling Away, and so many others. And this year he is back with The Dream, you know. So This and That, I want to say kudos to you. I want to say to keep up the good work. You know, in my mind, you know, if nothing else, he must be rewarded for consistency, if nothing else. You know, and you know, I mean, he's one of the pioneers. He's one who have, you know, kept the art form alive, whether we like it or not, whether we support him or not. And as I said right in these microphones before, This and That is my friend, but when it comes to Calypso, you know, we at loggerheads. I'm on the other side, I sit on the other side, but you know, the truth is the truth, you know, and we must give Jack his jacket, as I said. And kudos to This and That. Good night. I hope you're listening, and you know, we would have a fierce battle come the 2nd of August.
This and That must be complimented. He's one of those persons who must be complimented, you know, for his participation and his high standard as well. And that's why people, I mean, to say Culturama, to say Calypso, you would say This and That. You would, his voice, his way of doing his thing is well known. Is well known, and some may argue that he needs a bit of a shifting because things seems, because of many songs and so many years, that you would tend to feel like one song resembles the other, you know. But really, over the many years, it's very hard to. I mean, you develop a personality, you know, your music, your lyrics, everything tends to flow a certain way, and sometimes that can change. Importantly, yes, he writes his lyrics, and so that's a very special quality, to be so consistent and so forth, because a lot of people don't know big singers like King Shortshot, them don't write. They don't write their songs.
True.
And they are known to be, you know, the heavyweights of Calypso. This and That write his songs, and I'm sure he almost convey the music to the studio masters and so forth, because This and That in itself is a musician as well, you know. I'm not too caring about the MBE and so forth, because we are all members of the British Empire from a colonial standpoint, and some people don't want to really take that on. But from a local point of view, I think this and that would be one of the individuals that would definitely have to be saluted in a big way for his contribution, his consistency, the mark that he actually puts on the festival and continue to put on the festival, you know. And I suppose when it was in private hands, the festival I'm talking about, profits and revenue was very much a major thing. To keep it.
Now let me take this. I'll come back to you. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah. Well, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I've been listening and good show so far. Interesting. But Webo, I would like to clear the air about something. Different talks are making the rounds right now, Culturama time. And I've heard a couple of times that two of our government ministers, Mr. Brantley, the Premier, and Mr. Evelyn, I heard them on the radio talking about the long jam. And they are saying that the long jam is a Casanova thing, as if it started by Casanova. Well, I'm here to say that that's not true. The long jam didn't start by Casanova.
That's true.
The long jam started originally by the Soul Survivors. Mr. Joseph Gager was the owner of the Soul Survivors. I think he was the lone owner of the Soul Survivors. The leader of the Soul Survivors at the time was Mr. L.Y. Swanson, better known as Swanee. Some of you, the older ones, would probably know him as Gob. He's from the Jindaland area. You had the bass player from Jessup. His name was Otnell Swanson. Some of us will know him as Priest. He was the principal of the St. Thomas's Primary School at one time. You had a guitar player from Jessup as well. His name was Ingleston Morton. Some of us will know him as Belto. And he left sometime during the 70s and went to the Virgin Islands. He played guitar. He played a rhythm guitar. L.Y. Swanson, the leader, he played lead guitar. On keyboards was Mr. Clive Scarborough, and you would know him as Topang. He played keyboard. And we had like 3 people playing drums at the time. One, Keith Evelyn, better known as Savage. Mr. Bancampa, he was one of the drummers as well. Savage was a drummer, and they brought millions to play drum as well. The vocalist was a guy called Solken. Everybody know who Solken is. We also had a vocalist named Sheik, Derrick Lewis. He was one of the vocalists. There was also another vocalist from Low Street. His name was Elston Will.
Yeah.
And all of us played percussion. And like I said, the long jam, we who started the long jam. And furthermore, the long jam didn't start at Beach Road. I think they're starting it at Beach Road these days. The long jam didn't start at Beach Road. The long jam started at Market Shop. And we jam right into town. So for those, that's just a little history for those who don't know. Long jam wasn't started by Casanova or the core band. Started by the Soul Survivors. Another thing I need to clear the air on too. Because I heard one guy was telling me that the Soul Survivors was the first band from Nevis to do a recording. Went over to Ocho recording studio and Puerto Rico do recording. That is not true either. The first band to go over to Ocho recording Puerto Rico the 245. The IC's brass. The IC's brass was owned by Bobo Richards and Aunt McCain. They were a couple. They were the owner of the band. At the time, the members of the band was on the tape that was straight. Was technically at the time, keyboard. You had Conrad Francis from Ron Hill St. David, better known as Jan Head. You had Nathaniel Smith, better known as Cat. He played guitar. On drum, at the time when we did that recording, you had Llewellyn Claxton, better known as Azzy, he played drums. You had Darbo, who passed away, recently, he played percussion. And my brother, Julian Thompson, Lane, he also played percussion. And Sinclair Taylor, he also played percussion. Sinclair Taylor, better known as Trixie Joe. Most of the guys were from Bath Village. And then the horn players was Mr. Clive Tyson. Some people's name is Turkey, from Cotton Ground. As a matter of fact, the two horn players were from Cotton Ground. We had Everett Sargent played trombone. Clive played trumpet, Everett played trombone. And I played tenor sax. I had just started learning the sax. I probably no more than about 6 to 8 months I was, just learning to play the sax. I wasn't playing the sax for a year yet. I found myself in Culturama recording studio. And I also was the lead vocalist. Okay? My good friend, Tony Nisbet, the son of Mr. Fred Nisbet, he wasn't a member of the band, but he was a friend of the band because he was my personal best friend. So he was he used to come along with us and play some keyboards. And he also made the trip to Puerto Rico with us. He is the one, a lot of people thought that I am the one who wrote Live Up. I didn't write Live Up. Tony Nisbet is the one who wrote Live Up. One need is done, Rastaman shall rise, taking Babylon and people all by surprise. Tony Nisbet is who wrote that. What I did the lead vocals and he did a harmony. I added some horns to it because at the time I just started learning to play the horns and I was, full of effervescence and a lot of ideas and stuff like that. So I put some horns to it and I sang the song. So that is how it went now. The manager of our band, Isis Glass, was Mr. Trevor Chapman. He's the one who got us to Puerto Rico. When he joined the band as manager, he told us, I'm going to take you guys to Puerto Rico to do a recording. And he did. And let me say too, the Soul Survivors, the manager of the Soul Survivors at the time when they did that recording was Mr. William Griffin, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. He was the manager of the Soul Survivors. A lot of people don't know that. They think he was only the manager of CDC. So that is what went down, Weber. So I'm just trying to clear the air about that. Isis Brass is the first Nevis-based band to go and wax, so to do a recording, not Soul Survivors. I'm going to leave it there for now, Weber.
Before you go, callers, someone want to ask you a question?
Sure, not to say something.
Caller, good night. I'm really appreciative of the information. Yesterday, Soul Survivors started the long jump, which I always heard from since I'm a young lad. But can you recall the year?
Could you repeat that? I didn't get the last part.
Can you recall the year that Soul Survivors started the long jump, when they started the long jump?
Oh, the year. It would be somewhere around 1978, probably.
Okay. And caller,
somewhere between 1977 and 78. It wasn't 79. I know that for sure.
Okay.
It's somewhere between 77 and 78.
Caller, I can recall it as a young boy growing up. Your band used to come to the Zion School.
Oh yes.
I can recall that as a young boy, and when you spoke of it earlier, it brings back so much memories. As a small boy and as Mr. Swanston, well, growing up, we used to, well, not we, because I couldn't call him Gog, but I know him as Elroy. You see him, on the stage, and it brings back so much memories,
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that you're calling and give us all this information.
Yes, at that time, Nevis, in terms of the two bands, right? Nevis was kind of split in two.
Yeah.
In relation to the fans. Now from Charlestown, go back to Dick's Bar was like Soul Survivors territory. The most of the fans was from Charlestown back to Dick's Bar. And Isis Brass fans were from Charlestown all the way over to Zion. Okay, so it was kind of split in two. So when we keep a dance at church school, the same Zion school, I mean, normally we will get a full house. I would have seen times when we go to Dick's Bar, and the two bands would play at Dick's Bar. And I would see some guys over there from Zion and Hanley Park, all the way down Hanley Park. And I'm in front, they're playing my saxophone. And I'm going to myself, how these guys get over here? But they had no transport. How they got over, and they got over there before us, before the band. And someday you wonder, well, how they gonna get back home? That was the kind of loyalty that loyal fans that those bands had. Soul Survivors. I mean, Soul Survivors had their fans too. But you know, like I said, it was split into. One side of the country was for Soul Survivors, and the other side of the country was for IT's Brass. That is how it went down. And you know, it's a kind of shame that I'm hearing a lot about the NIDAC folks and the this and the that. I'm not hearing anything about those two bands that carried the load for all those years. We backed up Calypsonians, we jam on the street, we play for dance, we play for Queen Show, we play for Calypso Show, we play for everything. IT's Brass and Soul Survivors. And you know, people like Deja, who we call Pope, and Bobo Richards and Aunt Mike Keynes, these people made a big sacrifice. I mean, you could imagine how much lobster Bobo had to dive to get that money to buy those instruments. Not only to buy the instruments, but to send us to Puerto Rico, because it's his money is to finance that record that we did in Puerto Rico, Bobo money. So Survivors, it was Pope. All the money came from those guys. So they would have made a big sacrifice. But I'm not hearing Pope name calling. I'm not hearing Bobo Richards and my name calling. I'm not hearing IC's Brass. I'm not hearing Soul Survivors. I listen to this and that Calypso, and I'm a big this and that fan. I like this and that. You know, he sang a song calling all the stalwarts name, but I didn't hear anything about IC's Brass. He mentioned about Queen this and Queen that, and called the names of the persons who were part of NIDA. May hear nothing about IC's Brass and Soul Survivors. And we work our butt off. I'm telling you, every night we in the band house practicing, leading up to Culturama to get all those Calypsonian songs, you know, pretty good. We work hard.
True.
Hard. But, you know, it's like, you know, people, they don't appreciate that, man. And sometimes it saddens me. Not for me so much, because it's something that I love. But for people like Bobo and Pope who made that kind of sacrifice, you know, it's kind of hard that nobody mentioning their name.
Caller, might I ask you a question?
Sure.
On that note, you think the persons don't mention it because possibly they don't know and haven't made the effort to know?
Well, maybe they don't know, but you know, somebody has to know. Maybe the younger folks don't know, but the older folks, you know, people who grew up during the 70s, like me and you.
Right,
you
and
know.
then if you argue that the younger folks don't know, you also agree that is them run things.
Oh, the young folks?
Yes.
Really?
No?
I don't know about that.
Not true?
I don't know about that way.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, we're having a discussion and knowledge. Maybe we can pull the check it on the internet, because they have every thing on the internet. We could look at who's on the committee, and we can get an idea of whether they're old or young.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, yeah, like the folks on the committee. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Okay,
So it wouldn't be them who run things?
Yeah.
Okay.
The persons on the committee, yeah, they will be young. Yeah, they will be the younger ones. Yeah, you're correct with that. Okay.
So, as Edric Stanley would say, as a light moment, are you following me?
Yes, I'm following you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, but I just thought I would get that information.
And we appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is perhaps. Oh, I was supposed to go back to Roger.
Yeah. Webo, I just want to thank the caller once again, Webo. And Webo, this brings me to Calypso. And when he spoke about persons, you know, traveling from one part of the island to another part, back in those days, there weren't a lot of vehicles running on the roads, Webo. And as a youngster growing up, I always loved Calypso, Webo. And I can recall going to band house with Slimba. And I can recall we walking, and these bandmen, they've put in a lot of work, and so the same can be said of the Calypsonians.
Let me take this again. I'll come back to you. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Mr.
Yes.
I just come into my house from work and I tuned into one radio and I heard somebody talking about soul survivors and IC's brass. And I really cannot help but have to call in this evening. And the call is on point. So much on point, Mr. Herbert. I'm really have to give the caller. You there?
Yeah, we're right here.
Yeah, I'm have to give the caller a lot of credit for what he just spoke about, because being a former member of Soul Survivors Brass, it hurts me not to hear Soul Survivors and IC's Brass saying Hardin, Gager, Bobo. I mean, Soul Survivors and IC's Brass every Culturama for years. I mean, I'm a former member of Soul Survivors Brass, and the current, I mean, I think Abonati is still the chairperson of whatever Culturama. He was part of Soul Survivors Brass for a while too.
Caller, before you go much further, and I forget, I don't get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
You were a member of Soul Survivors Brass.
Yes.
What role did you play?
I played tenor saxophone in the band for about 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yes, Mr. Robert. I played with the Nevis Symphonic Orchestra from the beginning of Nevis Symphonic Orchestra, from it started in Charleston Secondary High School. I was a member of the Nevis. In matter of fact, I was the first tenor saxophonist in that band until Campy and Leslie joined the band. When we went independent in 1983, I was part of the group that played for Nevis. It was independent. I was part of that group. So I'm just saying that the call is so on point, because if we're going to celebrate 50 years of Culturama, we cannot ever forget Soul Survivors and IC's Brass. Trust me, we have to. Otherwise, trust me, it's not going to go down good. Something has to be done. Like the caller said, Gage Pope and Bubble, IC's Brass, owner Bubble, Soul Survivors, owner Pope. Let me tell you, it's been, sometimes those days we don't even have transportation. I have to pack from Cotton Ground sometimes to go band practice above the Charleston Secondary High School. So I am just saying that we have to bring Soul Survivors IC's Brass somehow within that 50 years. So whoever the caller is, I didn't pick up the caller because I came in late and the end of the discussion. But so on point, and I just want to give my 2 cents about the IC's Brass and the Soul and Soul Survivors. And Abonati was part of Soul Survivors Brass, because I remember a session in Dick's Bar. When we had a session in this bar, when it was a band clash, and oh my God, I mean that night was one of the best songs I've ever played. So I am just saying that Soul Survivors IC's Brass has played a significant part in our Culturama 50. So please let them do something. If not for the players, for the owners, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, caller. And maybe. By the way, caller and others, that's one of the things that we're doing here. We got a program especially for that right here, and that's one of the things. Remember, I tell you all more to come.
Yes.
This is also to come too.
Hi, this is Zombai Digai, inviting you to join me on my release for Culturama 50 right here on the Powerhouse Fun Radio for my contribution to Culturama 50. I was there year 1, I'm here year 50.
Good, good evening. Thank you for holding.
Mr. Robert, I thought you were saying something on the phone. The call dropped, so I called back just to I don't know if you were saying something.
No, that's okay. We will finish up.
Okay, all right. Have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, you as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, okay.
Yeah. Yes, Edric.
Yeah, and I nod my head.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
nod my head in agreement with everything the two callers have said. But before the brass was added to these two bands, they were just ICs and Soul Survivors.
Combo. Yeah.
Combo.
Yes. Good. Okay. Caller, I'm sorry. Please call that. Yeah.
And they back the Calypsonian all the time for all these years, many years. All of a sudden, we can't find a Nevis band to back the. What happened there? I don't understand that part. Soul Survivors and ICs back the Calypsonians for many years, very well in every respect, and all of a sudden, no Nevis band come back the Calypsonian. And big money have to be paid elsewhere to get people to back the Calypsonian. That's not good. But Soul Survivors and ICs, kudos to them and the owners, no doubt about that at all. The first caller laid out absolutely perfectly.
Hello?
Yes. I'm sorry, Naya.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, good evening. Me again, Webo. Just to piggyback on what Naya is saying there about fans. No. What I learned is that they are saying that the Nevis musicians can't read music, so they have to bring over these guys from St. Kitts to read the music and to back up our Calypsonians. I mean, back in the day, back in the 70s when they were Soul Survivors and IC's Brass, right? Those two bands, they were all Nevisians, not one person from any other country. 100% Nevisians. And we played for all those Calypsonians. The thing about the reading of the music though, okay, fine. If we don't have any horn players, or if our horn players aren't up to scratch to be reading the sheets and stuff like that, well, why don't they put a program in place to get some youth to help, start teaching them, and the next 5 or 10 years we'll have our own horn players. I mean, I don't understand that. They're saying that the horn players, we don't have any horn players. I don't have a problem with them bringing up whoever they bring from St. Kitts to play the wind instrument. I don't have a problem with that. But work on something. Have a program to teach some of our youth how to read music, how to play the wind instruments. And they'll surprise us and they'll make us proud. They will really make us proud. No, they're also bringing up a bass player. They're bringing up an extra keyboard player. They're bringing up a drummer. So I mean, Nevis don't have any drummers. Nevis don't have any bass players. Nevis don't have any keyboard players. As far as I'm concerned, Webo, it's a band out of St. Kitts. It's a St. Kitts band with Macefield and Kirkley. It's not an all-star band. I mean, how do you go about? To me, you go about looking at the best musicians you have in the land, and you choose from the best musicians you have in the land. I think somebody's selling us out, Webo. Sorry, I mean, that's how we feel about it. I feel somebody is selling us out. My suggestion, if you have to bring up the horn players to play, fine. But in the meantime and between time, we got lots of talented youth out there. Try and reach them and have a program in place to teach them how to play this music. There's no devil in it. And like I said, they will surprise us and they will make us proud. So please, the persons at the helm, this is my suggestion. Okay? Webo, thanks again. If I have to call back, I'll call back.
Man, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I can recall when Georges, the guy that wrote the national anthem, and Stanley, a guy we used to call Stanley, married to a person from Nevis at this point, and he comes here all the time. And the other day I asked him if he still played the sax. Those guys came from St. Kitts and play with Soul Survivors and inspire a lot of people here, to take up the horns. And it was good, and we people catch on very fast. And of course, when there was the Nevis Symphonic Band, there was a few people coming out of that symphonic band playing horns. But I think the caller make a serious suggestion. This is our 50th year. I mean, what happened to year 20, year 30, year 40? Somebody should have probably looked into that situation and maybe, you know, have some classes going on, sponsored by the government, because this is what it's about, keeping culture alive, you know. And that thing always worried me, because a big portion of the money goes somewhere when the people are potentially ready and able to play that role. Soul survivors and ICs play that role all the time, competently.
Yeah. Naya, what I want to say is that, you know, those bandmen of yesterday's ICs and soul survivors, they must have had to been really good musicians. In those days, we used to have a number of Calypsonians, and to recall all the music for the individual Calypsonians and the individual songs, it must have been some extraordinary talent. The music most of the times for the Calypsonians, you know, the melody used to be created in the band house, and the bandmen had to remember, because no musical sheets were scored back then that I can recall of. Anyway, and so I want to say kudos to all those, you know, who would have been part of the ICs and soul survivors. And what I would say tonight, Webo, is that all of the Calypsonians haven't released as yet. So if you didn't hear something about ICs or soul survivors in another song or songs, stay tuned.
Are those bands still functioning?
No, they are not. But we must remember our past.
What I'm attempting to imply is that somebody should painstakingly put a program together with the history of the participants, the major participants, their skills, their talent, as the case might be, and for it not to be lost in the annals of history, but it must be contemplated.
Edric, let me get this. I'll come back to you. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello?
Good evening. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Yes, this is Irma Johnson. And everybody know who Irma Johnson is as regards Culturama. And I totally agree with that person who gave the history about soul survivors and IC, but they carried Culturama for years, and they supposed to be included in the 50s. And they had a need to call us in and discuss certain things with us. Have a good night.
Well, the calling on, I wanted to ask a question, but yeah, well, and that is what it is all about. Because what I understand, what I find is interesting, not just with Culturama, but as I journey through life, and I've made certain quotations, that history, some people want to write history the way they would like it to be read. But history happens.
True.
That's number one. And number two, the person who writes history, right? History is determined by the person who records it. History is determined by the person who records it. And that caller we heard a little while ago, I am sure will give you a different take on the reason why government took over Culturama. Different to what Mr. Stanley gave. Because what Mr. Stanley gave, I as a young boy know it to be different as well. Not that Mr. Stanley is wrong and I am right. I just have a different account of it.
Well, the reason why I said the government had to play a major role is because it's a source of money. And Culturama is a big mammoth. Or
So in other words, when you gave the reason, you were just, it could fit under the first comment I made. Some people would like to write history the way they would like it to be read, because it sounds reasonable, right? So you just put it that way.
well, what I had in view.
I'll come back to you. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening, Wabo.
Caller, just a second, caller. I'm going to encourage you, when you call, all the callers, to listen to your phone, because you'll hear us on the phone, and do not listen to the radio. Caller, go ahead.
Wabo, good evening. Good evening to your panelists. Always a very interesting show. Now, this is a very interesting discussion tonight, because we've all heard about the 50th anniversary of Culturama and the excitement that's supposed to be around it. But it seems to me there's some missing links, and I hope it's not too late. I know all of us, and I'm including myself, like to sit back and say what people didn't do or what they should do. Those who know need to step out and speak. It's such an education. I'm one of the Nevisians who was not living in Nevis when Culturama started. I just knew about Culturama in the 1990s. And there's so much that I can learn, or I would love to learn. They talk about the bands. I always thought it was a long jam. I never knew, I don't even know who IC's band is. Okay? I've never heard, I think I may have heard those names once or twice, but I really don't know who those people are or what role they played. And this is the time. This is the time. I am to hope that the people who are in charge of Culturama 50 are listening. And if they're not tonight, they need to listen to the replay of this show tomorrow. It's really, really important. And those who know, you know what? Maybe they should come out with a little booklet with pictures of who IC's band was and who, the other band was. We have not seen, or at least I have not seen anything anywhere that indicates to me the pictures of the persons who started Culturama. Okay? Are we going to see that? When are we going to teach our people? We talk about the young people, but if we don't have our history and our events well chronicled and placed in a space, will there be a space for Culturama, like a museum where you can walk in and see pictures of the troops from the years before, those who started Culturama, those two bands? Has any of this been planned? We don't know. But this is the time now, and this conversation tonight has been really, really, to me, hit the nail on the head. Thank you guys for making this happen. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much.
What I was saying, Webo, is that the government as an entity has a source of money with regard to administration. So based on how I saw it, that's what I amplified. They've got the source of money.
Yeah, but you see, what happens though, sometimes how a person sees something is not necessarily how it is or what happened. So if you want to tell a story about something, because you see it a certain way, it is not right to say that is how it is. You agree with that?
Oh yes.
Okay. So what it will be interesting to note here, whether it be very, as young people would say, sexy or not, it will be interesting to know what is the reason or reasons why it was taken over by the government. Is that fair?
Quite fair. It's quite fair. But I had to bring in the comprehensive approach with regard to
this. This is something like last week when we had a discussion about the CBI and the lawsuit in the United States, and all you're hearing about is Mark Brantley, whose name was not in the lawsuit. You don't get it? It is all well and good if you have certain information about a certain matter and you have a discussion, but if something else is irrelevant, we leave it until it gets relevant to us another situation. You agree with me?
quite so.
Okay, so then if something happens because of a particular reason, that is what we want to know and discuss it. Not whether or not this reason sounds better. Correct?
Quite so.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hello, hello.
You are on the air. Could you speak much louder?
Hello, good night. I just listened here from Finchside, Guadeloupe.
Yeah. Caller.
Yeah.
That's much better, right? Because
I'm calling from the Finchside, Guadeloupe. Right?
Yes.
But I'm from the Federation. I just want to ask Naya a question. Now you talk about the time when the Think It blowing orchestra came up. When this Santai emerged from out of all of this, because Santai was a key player in the blowing horn instrument. In Think It and in Nevis, one of them had a big tune. And the Santai brothers had a big tune, which was like a top tune for Culturama. Every year that Connie Archibald had as his theme song in the National Showcase every Tuesday night. Colin Archibald is a key figure too in this whole business. I think that we don't call sufficient even name, but I like Naya to tell me when the Santai emerged in all of this blowing, because Santai was a key trombonist emerged for the play for, I think it's Eddie Matt and the jazz brass, along with the brass from Nevis. So my question is to Naya, give thanks. I've been listening after you.
Okay, thank you. Naya, you know that?
I'm not sure when Santoy came. I think Santoy came to Nevis. I know Santoy used to work with Elimat and G.I. Brass. And then in the end, he found himself in Nevis working with the, I think maybe the culture.
But you don't know when he started?
No.
Okay, that's what the caller wanted to know. Thank you for holding. Could you go ahead?
Yeah, welcome me again. Let me answer the question about the Santai thing, right? The guy was asking about a song that the Santai used to hear on the radio practically every Culturama. This wasn't the trombone Santai. This wasn't Irvin what's his name? Irvin Swanson, the trombone player. This was the older brother, Lincoln. Lincoln is the older brother. He had a song used to be playing on the radios every Culturama. Really, really, really nice song. But this was the older brother, Lincoln. Santai, the trombone player, I think he went to Think It he told me he went to Think It when he was around 9-10 years old. And he joined the police band, which was headed by Mr. Bridgewater. Okay? He started there, and then he told me he and Mr. Bridgewater had a falling out. And then he went to the camp, the Defense Force band, where he further his studies playing the trombone. And then he played with the first band he played with was Grand Dash 2 Express. Okay? He played on an album back up King Arrow on that album. They went to Trinidad and they did an album backing up King Arrow. He played on that record. And then he joined Elimat and the G.I. Brass. And kinda like the rest is history. He played with Elimat and the G.I. Brass until they had that split. Remember they had that split where the band left Elimat and they formed their own band, called it G.I. Brass International? Well, he was a part of the G.I. Brass International. So that is how that part went down. Okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Naya, might I give you a little plug here? Remember that you had a band as well.
Yes, but we had nothing to do with most things.
What you mean? You made a contribution.
No, we wasn't about to at all.
Well, let me ask you this: how come I know then that you had a band?
Because we
If
probably
you weren't inconsequential.
No, I could remember we came here with a cassette or that we recorded and Von Radio used to be playing.
Oh, okay.
Some of the music.
So then you got to give us a little thing for playing your stuff.
Yeah, kudos to Von Radio. But as I said, we wasn't in that kind of spotlight. What we.
But you made a contribution.
We made a contribution. We continue to make a contribution.
This is what I'm saying. Everybody can be.
Because I was on the Beffront the other day, and
it's not everybody became a king or queen.
Of course.
But the others made a contribution.
Yeah, and the studio made a
so
contribution.
don't get me antsy here. I want to mention those who did not. Yeah, Naya, go ahead.
Yes, well, I must say to you, Webo, the individual that keep topping up us with these information was an exceptionally talented individual, and he continues to be. I know him as a drummer with the Soul Survivors, and then he crossed over and went to ISIS. And I must say, I was a Soul Survivors fan, but ISIS was the better band. And they had a crazy rhythm section, Bago on bongos, and Trixie Joe, Azian John, crazy rhythm section, and the vocal was excellent. Dan Thompson was the man doing the vocal, and he did some beautiful cover. If I Can Have You, I Don't Want Nobody Else. I don't know if anyone can recall that cover they did when they went to record in Puerto Rico, but that was beautiful band, to me much stronger than Soul Survivors, and they must be recalled. They must be recalled. They must be mentioned, and highlighted in this 50th anniversary, because I always feel like there is, and I agree with the caller, somebody is playing us somewhere along the line, and I don't know when that started, but I just can't accept the fact that with all the talent we have here, and with these two bands carrying the Culturama and the Calypsonians for so many years, I just can't accept that we are now having to basically import individuals to carry that load for so many years, and it's big money we got to pay out. Culturama don't make money, and I don't think it's I think profits on the government.
Especially for you, this is what we do to solve the problem you were wondering.
Always satisfying. Vaughn Radio, the powerhouse.
Builder's Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builder's Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builder's Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builder's Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
Hi, this is Zumbai Digai. Are you ready for 40 ounce and chain gang? Hey, meet me and the boys at Harlem.
Zumbai is next Tuesday evening, right here on the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse. Naya, so that was what you asked for, and that was it. And for the rest of the public and the caller who said they didn't know anything about the IC's brass and soul survivors, that was the IC's brass. Anybody knew what IC's stood for?
Good question.
International Circles. Right, International Circles, and the caller who was speaking about soul survivors and ICs, and he doing the saxophone, that's him. They call him Tampy, Donald Thompson from Bath Village. That was I think him in the vocal
and sax as well.
Yes, and the sax. So that's a little. And by the way, the callers who and the person who's been talking about the history and all that and stuff like that, I didn't want to let it out before. That's one of the special programming we'll be doing. So
nice.
We got the thing set up, man. More to come.
Very nice.
And also again, the discussion and the debate about the history and the historical aspect of it is very good, right? Because as I said, it is important for people not just to say things the way we would like them to be, but the reality of it.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right, Edric?
Quite so.
Quite so. There you go. Okay. What else we got? let me take this caller. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good evening again. And talk about the history. I used to be on the pier that time we had a boat pier. And I think I want to highlight the role of the two lighters, the Tender Valley and the Sakaro. They used to come from Nevis. They helped to build the economy of Nevis. Those animals and those mangoes, they come down to sell every week to build the Nevis economy. It is on these back of these people that Nevis economy was built. I don't hear nobody talk about mango sellers like Swanson and Mertlin and others who come down, and the people brought down the animals and sell them the goat and the sheep and the cattle just to make the money. When they go back, it's big in Nevis. In Culturama time, we used to go over on the boat sometimes and spend the night and come back over. The Sakara and the Tender Valley and crew, they work hard during Culturama time. Nobody don't talk about them. Everett and Lebe and Sam and Kat and all those, Thorman and all those fellas there, they put in a lot of work during Culturama time, especially during the mango season and cane season around the same time too. I think the history of Nevis must be, these people name must be mentioned in it. This time.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, one of the things also I would like to encourage people to do is that when we're having a discussion, for instance, about this topic, maybe it's just a cliche. A lot of folks would say, well, people need to talk about this. I ain't hear nobody saying this. Well, what happens is all of us are part of it. So that if I am aware of, I have certain knowledge, what I do, I say, well, I make it as a contribution to the whole argument or the discussion or the debate. So, for instance, if we're writing a book to tell a whole story, and I know about a chapter on a particular thing, I contribute that. You see what I'm saying? And that's why earlier I had asked a question whether or not, when we're suggesting that certain people should do certain things, I asked, do you think it is that they don't do it intentionally, or is it that they don't know?
No, Webber, 1974, how I view Culturama come out of the belly of Nevis people, difficulties, hardship.
Let me ask you this. How many of you know, and the audience, that we used to have carnival in Nevis, just as they have carnival in St. Kitts?
Same time.
How many of you know the history or the reason why we no longer have carnival in Nevis? And I give you a hint, but have Culturama.
Identity.
That's what I'm talking about, Rebel.
You don't know that because you weren't back here at the time.
It was an error.
Okay, but see, that again is interesting, because sometimes I think we don't want certain things to come to the fore because it is not the way we would like it to be read. But history happens. There's a reason why we do not have carnival in Nevis anymore, but we have Culturama. Might I give a hint instead?
Culturama comes out of Nevisians seeking an identity. What was going on in 1974 was hardship over here on Nevis with the sinking of the Christina.
Naya, I just want to cut in and let you finish. Edric looks spellbound.
Difficulty.
I'm just listening. At the same time, I'm thinking.
You're not spellbound?
Not really.
Okay, so you're doing?
Well, let me admit, Culturama, of course, is unique to Nevis, simply because those people like Armour Johnson, Calvin, Cabo Howell, I don't know if Victor J was part of it.
You don't know of the connectivity that I speak.
But at the same time, I know that those are the people who started it.
Yeah, that's different to the connectivity where carnival is concerned, and the point that Naya was making though. So you admit that you do not know.
I remember the carnival, maybe 1957.
No, Naya. No. So you do not want to admit that you do not know.
Well, I'm saying to you, I remember the first time I saw.
Walk with me, Edric. Let's go back to Naya. Let me help you out. or Fifey.
Well, growing up, I guess I was much younger, and maybe my mind wasn't as developed as it is now. But what I can recall is that, Nevis wanted its own unique festival. I think Mikos sang a song some time ago in part, Nevis had a pizza festival, and I believe from that song, what I'm gathering from that song is that Nevis wanted its own unique festival to be able to showcase its own talent, and it's a possibility. I'm subject to the correction, but this is from my understanding, that we were somewhat, our talents were somewhat suppressed. That's based on my understanding as a young lad growing up.
Well, what I can say to those folks who are listening and who are really interested in knowing some of the history and the NIDACs and stuff like that, again, I'll show my hand a little bit. We'll be doing some of those discussions and interviews with some of those same persons that we're talking about. So, more than ever, you have more than enough reason to stick and stay right here all night, all day.
Webo, if I may, Webo, I don't know how much of a suggestion it is, Webo, but maybe one of the things that the Culturama Committee can probably look at is to have an award maybe every 5 years. You know, this is Culturama 50, Culturama 55, Culturama 60, and so forth. You know, have this award. Of course, there would have to be some criteria where over that particular 5-year span, you probably have maybe best vocalist, maybe in Calypso or bands, you know, maybe best troupe over the past 5 years, maybe best designer, and so forth, Webo. And I believe that, you know, could add to the Culturama, the whole Culturama component, and other persons, Webo, who each year behind the scenes, you know, they don't get an opportunity to maybe go on stage, but they could be recognized. Maybe this can be done maybe every 5 years, Webo, in my opinion, so persons could know. I mean, the persons they spoke of Bobo and my Gauge and stuff like that, and a lot of persons may not have known, you know. So I am saying those persons who are behind the scenes and would not necessarily be on the stage, even Webo, the cameramen and stuff like that, we don't necessarily know who they are, but they are the ones who are, you know, videotaping and bringing it to us and stuff like that. Even here at Vaughan, we may not know the guys who are doing the setting up and making sure that everything is ready to be aired and stuff like that, you know, to broadcast the Culturama events. You know, I believe that, you know, heads could come together, you know, criteria, you know, be set up and stuff like that, and probably have such an award maybe every 5 years. Webo. I don't know if what the other panelists may think of it.
Well, there's no question about it. It must be documented, and based on what we have said here tonight, I'm certain that somebody will take the initiative to get it documented to the point where it becomes part of a book, and when you go back into the archives, maybe 20 years from now, you can look at certain members who participated. Well, at the same time, it gives you a fresh memorization of the participants, what they did, and how they did it, and maybe the year they did it.
I would just like all of us to play the game right. Play the game right. And take the politics out of Culturama. And just judge people based on their talent and contribution.
Naya, is that possible? Is something possible to take the politics out of it if it is controlled by government?
That's a very good question.
Okay, well, let's that be the last word, hoping by next week we get the answer. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith This and That Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work. That's an idea. You can spend all of your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean Spa House, where every single thing we do it for you, because only the best will do. Thank you all again for joining us this evening. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertising.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.